This video will look at solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula gives us a way to solve a quadratic in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And the solutions are x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So 2a is the denominator of this entire sum or difference. If the number under the radical is negative, we say that there are no real solutions because we can't take the square root of a negative number. So make a little note of that. Okay, so let's look at an example. We want to solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So what we want to do first, if your equation is not already equal to 0, you want to make sure that you get it into this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. You'll have some practice problems in the homework where it's not automatically equal to 0, so you'll just subtract the constant from both sides, or just move all of the terms to one side so that your equation is equal to 0. Once you've done that, then you can identify a, b, and c. So in this case, I have a equals 3 because of the 3x squared. B equals negative 3 because of minus 3x. And c equals negative 7 because of the minus 7. Now notice that the sign in front of the term goes along with the coefficient. So a was positive 3, b was negative 3, and c was negative 7. So now I'm using this formula up here. X equals negative b. So I'll have negative, b is a negative 3. So I have negative 3 plus or minus the square root. I want to make sure I put the negative 3 in parentheses because a negative number squared will give me a positive, but only if I have that negative inside of parentheses with the base. So negative 3 quantity squared minus 4 times a times c. So 4 times 3 times negative 7. And that entire expression is going to go on top of 2 times a. So 2 times 3. All right, so I've got everything plugged into this formula. And now I just have to simplify and then put it in my calculator for the decimal answers. Okay, so I will end up with the double negative here gives me a positive 3. So I'll have 3 plus or minus. And I want to pull up my calculator. So let me pull this over to the side here. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out what goes underneath the radical. So I'll have parentheses negative 3, close the parentheses and square that, minus 4 parentheses 3, close the parentheses, parentheses negative 7, close the parentheses. So I have negative 3 quantity squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 7. And I get a 93. So I'll have 3 plus or minus the square root of 93, all divided by 2 times 3, so all divided by 6. Now, I cannot simplify unless I have a common factor of the two terms on the top that would cancel out something from the bottom. Now 3 and square root of 93 do not share a common factor. So this would be my final answer. These would give me the exact answers. So I could go ahead and write exact answers are going to be x equals 3 plus the square root of 93 all over 6, and 3 minus the square root of 93 all over 6. So those would be my exact answers. And then if the question asks you for decimal answers rounded to the nearest hundredth, what you have to do is put that into your calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do parentheses, 3 plus square root of 93, close the parentheses so that the calculator knows that entire expression is your numerator, and then divide by 6. And I'll do parentheses 3 minus the square root of 93, close your parentheses, and then divide by 6. And they say round to the nearest hundredth, so the 2 decimal places. So I'm going to get 2.11, and negative 1.11. So these are my decimal answers. Now, just like in the last videos where we were solving quadratic equations, the way to check your answers is to plug them into the original equation. So it may not come out exactly 0 because I've rounded to 2 decimal places, but it should come out pretty close if I've done my equation right. So to plug into the original, I'll start with the 2.11. So I have 3x squared minus 3x minus 7. So I'm going to do 3 times 2.11 squared minus 3 times 2.11 minus 7. And again, it's not going to come out exactly 0, but it comes out pretty close. If I wanted to check even more accurately, I could put in this entire decimal that I found. I could put in 3 times 2.107275,127 squared minus 3 times that number, 2.10727 minus 7. And you can see that comes out even closer to 0. The 10 to the negative 9 in the scientific notation tells us that it's 0.000000000 before this non-zero digit starts. So this is close enough to 0 that I know I've got a correct answer. And I want to check my second answer. I'll go ahead and do 3 parentheses negative 1.107275 127. Close the parentheses and square, and then minus 3 parentheses, negative 1.107275,127. Close the parentheses, and then minus 7. And we've got a number very close to 0. I may have typed something in incorrectly here. I did on my second one. This should be 107,275,127, and there it comes out a little better. So this number is very, very, very close to 0 because of the times 10 to the negative 9. So to check your answer, plug it into your original equation. When you're doing the quadratic formula, make sure that you set your equation equal to 0 first before you try to identify A, B, and C. And then it's a matter of using this formula. If you're squaring a negative number, make sure you put that negative base in parentheses before squaring so that it will come out positive.